It's a new day, Noonan. Yes, it is, and I am crawling out of the abyss, the darkness within. I am leaving behind the things that weren't mine and being born again as a virgin, apparently. You know, when I do these intros, instead of planning something out and writing something and being like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pre-script what I say so it's better. I just start talking, and I try to make it something I've never said before. You know how, like, especially when you're a kid, and you're like, oh, skibbity sklurgen damelfish. Wow, that's never been said before in the entire world. I said something brand new for the first time. I'm trying to recapture that feeling, so when I do my intros, I try to put words together in a sentence or in a paragraph even that has never, no chance it's ever been put together like that. And that's exciting to me. This is exciting to be that unique and special because I am a unique and special little butterfly. I'm a little butterfly flying up into the flowers. Butterflies go to flowers, right? I think so. Yeah, that's good. And they pollinate them. Or is that a bee? Do butterflies pollinate? Wait a minute. This is a legit confusion on my part. What is the purpose of a butterfly? Does it just look pretty? Is it just to give white girls something to tattoo? I've got a lot to learn about butterflies, it seems. We've got some exciting things going on over here in Haroldtown. Firstly, our podcast may not be here next week for a week. The computer I am currently using is being traded off into the sunset. It is leaving me. It is going to my girlfriend's ex because it belongs to him. So for starters, thank you, Tyler, for allowing me to use this time to record my podcasts. And if you didn't want your name to be out there, then thank you, Tyner is the name I meant to say. Wink, wink. So we may miss a week, maybe two, but I hope not to do that. We've been going strong since we started, a couple months. Most podcasts do not make it this far, and most podcasts are not this terrible. But you know what I'm here to do? I'm here to let you know that it's okay to be terrible. This is Coweta County. If you can't be terrible in Coweta County, where can you be terrible? Secondly, your boy, the mustached assassin, is going to be involved in making magic at Whimsical Cafe. Now, Whimsical Cafe is in downtown Noonan towards the train tracks. It's not right on the square, but it's just barely off the square, and it's a delightful place to eat sandwiches and drink some of I would say, the best alcoholic drinks in, God, I don't know if I'd say Georgia, but I'm sure there's some fancy place, but it's the best I've had. They are incredible. I would get myself absolutely smashed if they weren't expensive, which they should be expensive because they are Lee Edgett. Lee Edgett. That would be legit. That is slang for legit, which is not really slang. It's just taking the word and adding weird pauses. This is my first time talking today. It is currently 7:07 a.m. It is an early morning, but we're about to take a kid to school, so there'll be a break in here while I take a kid to school. It's early for me, but I've got a Pure Protein Brookie bar. Pure Protein is my favorite breakfast in the world, and I've got some Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. I saw recently somebody talking about how Dr. Pepper people are a different breed. Like, they'll have Dr. Pepper with anything, and it's true. I will have Dr. Pepper with anything. I would rather have Dr. Pepper than coffee. Anyways, Whimsical Cafe. Your boy's going to be working with them a lot going forward. You're going to be able to see me hosting bingo. Bingo nights coming up every Wednesday night. I'll be over there. Unless you're hearing this like 4 years in the future, I would assume by then I've been fired for smuggling bingo balls and taking them home to make my bingo alien that I can fall in love with. But maybe I'm still there. Maybe they forgave me for that. We'll have to see what happens. I'm going to be honest, my lovers. I've never played bingo. I've never been in a room where it is played. I don't know how bingo works, which you must be thinking, how the heck is Harold supposed to host bingo if he doesn't know how bingo works? Well, the good thing about that is I'll figure it out because I am a fast learner and I am handsome. And those are the only two things you need to do to be a bingo host. So I will figure it out. I understand that you're trying to get 5 in a row. and there's a free space in the middle, and there's usually a big old basket bucket. It's got little balls in it, and you pull out a ball and you say it, and then you write it down on your on your little piece of paper, and if you get 5 in a row, I understand that's how it works, I think, but I don't understand why it would be fun to do that. And I don't understand what the letters have to do with it. And I don't understand what the number options are. Like, is it just a random amount of numbers, or does it go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15? Like, I don't know. Because the bingo boards I've seen, it's just random numbers. So I don't know how all that works. So if you know about bingo, you know where to reach me. My phone number is, should I do it? Yeah, I'll do it. 678-877-9070. You got to commit, baby. You got to commit to the riff. Commit to the riff. That's what I always say, and I'm committing to the riff. And the riffing is giving out my phone number. Today's episode, we are finishing, I don't even know if we're going to finish it, but we are continuing our discussion of ranking the best churches in Coweta County. These are the churches I've attended, I was a member of, or maybe some of them have weird membership rules, but these are the churches that I was continuously visiting for years. So if that's not membership, then I don't know what political party you're talking about, but my political party with God says I was a member. Today we are going to start with my number 2 of my favorite churches. This is also, even though this is my second favorite church that I've been a member of, it is also my easily number 1 least favorite that I was a member of. And you're wondering, wait a minute, Harold, how can it be your least favorite and one of your favorites? Well, because different things can be good and different things can be bad. My favorite relationship I've been in, I was going to say, is also the worst one I've been in, and that's not true. It may have had, no, it didn't even have the hardest things in it. I really like my favorite relationship I've been in. It is absolutely a delightful relationship. There were hard things, of course, as there always are, but it was not the worst relationship I've been in. So, bad example. Let me think. So Return of the King is my least favorite Lord of the Rings movie, but it's also my favorite Lord of the Rings movies because it's got like all those different storylines. Okay, last season of Game of Thrones. Here we go. Loved it. I totally acknowledge that the things people don't like about it are not good things, that the ending's rushed, that the way that they wrapped it all up, not cool, not good. They should have done so much better. But the stuff that was good about it, I loved it so much. I thought it was awesome. There's so many things about that last season that I found delightful. I don't know if it's my favorite season, but it's one of my favorites. It's up there, and I also recognize that it's the worst. So, boom, maybe that's a better example for all my Game of Thrones-iacs out there. So this church, Community Christian Church, Sharpsburg, Georgia. They have tried to have multiple campuses, and I think all those have shut down. Like, they try to be like, we're going to go also be at a middle school, so come there. And I think all that failed, and then they've come back to one church. They were going to build another church, and that didn't happen, and so it's all come back. So it's just a building, I believe, on, I don't know the highways. I'll look up the address and share it later. But it's a building in Sharpsburg, right down Thomas Crossroads, like you're heading towards Sonoy. A big old flat building. So it's important to note when talking about this church is that this was the last place that I went to in an effort to be an active Christian. This was the one that I was all in on it. This was the most I ever felt religious. And once this went away and I stopped going there, that's when I was like, I want to be an atheist or agnostic. I want those things for me, and I'm going to push to make myself that, because this place left such a bad taste in my mouth. And it's not just me that this is true about. I don't want to speak for my brothers, but they were religious when they were at this place, and I am 80% sure this was the last place they went to before they stopped being religious too. I believe this is the last church my mother went to. I know at least 24 people whose last place they went to before they were like, okay, religion isn't for me, was Community Christian Church. And it's hard to say exactly why, because I know the experience for everyone is different. But for me, this place had such a bullying mentality and such a, if you're not doing something for the paid staff to make things easier for them, you don't have worth here, is the mentality that I felt and a lot of other people felt. It's the staff members had quotas to meet, and they had things they needed, and they had people they needed to, numbers they needed to hit, and that was their goal. Is it felt like they were little businessmen, and everybody else was, oh man, I'm trying to think of a way to word it that doesn't sound super terrible. Everybody else, it's not expendable or disposable, but um, like we're there for we are there for the church's goal, and the church is the people who are paid to be there. It was the church is the paid, is just the staff paid to be there place that I've ever been. And I should start off with saying I don't have a bitter relationship with this place. They taught me so many things, and I had the best relationships and friendships of my life there. I learned how to act. I learned how to direct. I learned how to do film. I learned how to treat God like a best friend rather than a scary entity that is waiting to punish you. Like, I learned these things, and there are ways that I talk to people now that I learned from there. There's relationships I have now that I got from there that are my favorite relationships that I have. But you will be made to feel like you don't matter. Like, what matters is the next person they can get to come to this church and become a member. Because once you become a member, you're a member. You have to do these things now that you come to this church, which are be in a small group and serve. Serving means, like I said, doing stuff that makes it easier for the staff. Which volunteering, I think you have to have at a big old church. But if you don't do those two things, and if you waver on those two things, and if you stop doing those two things, well, then the people you thought cared about you, they're going to forget that you exist, and they're going to outright bully you. You're going to be treated like an outsider. And it didn't just happen to me. It happened to person after person after person. It happened to people before me. It happened to people after me. It's the culture. The culture is, I don't know if you've seen this church, but they have this sign, or they had it. I don't know if they still do. And it says, "No perfect people allowed," which is a super clever way to advertise your church, because what you don't want is for people to feel like, nope, if you come here, you got to be perfect. But the problem is that motto became an excuse. It was, well, no perfect people are allowed, so obviously you're not going to be treated great here. The goal isn't to ever be perfect. The goal is to just keep trying and go to church and do the things you're supposed to do at church. So the staff, I felt like no perfect people allowed was used as an excuse for bullying, and the staff being awful to people more than anything. Because when I first got there, no perfect people allowed wasn't the message. I don't remember what it was, something about community and coming together and kindness or something like that. But then it became this, no perfect people allowed, which means lay off of us, okay? We're not perfect. And that was like the thing, the message over and over and over by the staff there is, we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not going to be great. I have all these flaws, which, cool. I appreciate the honesty, but the whole way that getting people involved was set up, and the whole way that they will make you feel like you're a problem and you are anti-church and you're anti-God if you're not volunteering and doing the things that a few older people tell you to do was really gross. Um, and it made me and lots of other people feel really gross. That was my first problem with it that made me feel really, really crappy. And just hearing so many people tell this story, and I'm sure there are people that it's not true about who were able to volunteer and then they had to leave for different reasons, and it was cool. In my experience, and again, in the experience of most of the people that I'm close to still, that is not the experience they had. It is a big church that did not know how to manage being a big church. It knew how to manage being a big business. And that's just one way that they tried to manage being a big business. They also tried to grow. So they did have these different sites that you could go to. I remember being a part of that and trying to help that happen. They had this huge thing. It was called Chapter 2, where they were going to build this new church. And I remember them standing on stage and saying, God told us that we're going to build a new church, and God told us that we need millions of dollars. I can't remember how many millions. 7 million? 3 million? It was at least 3 million. Maybe 6. Somewhere between 3 and 7. Because they created music videos about it. I still have the song stuck in my head. Chapter 2. And then they say, $3 million come flowing from you. Like all this propaganda to convince the members, that's us, the church family, to give enough money for them to build a church. I remember the pastor standing on stage and saying, God told me that someone's going to give $100,000. So I know it's going to happen. I'm so excited about it. Well, that did not happen. And they did not get nearly enough money from us. And so they said, all right, we're going to take the money you've given us and we're going to build this new church with it. And then within a couple of months, it turned out that's not what God was saying. It turns out God changed his mind because the staff was having a hard time with doing the thing that God told them to do. And that made me really mad. And mad's probably not what I should have been, but it was the first time that I was at a church and I felt manipulated so badly. It was like, but if God was telling you all along that this is what you needed to do and you had to make songs about it and all these pamphlets and skits and all kinds of stuff, well, does God just change his mind? And when that happened, that's when I started questioning God, which is silly, right? For me to say, hey, they said they were going to build a new church and they needed millions of dollars, and then they didn't get enough millions of dollars, and then they said God changed his mind, and now I have a hard time believing in God. And it didn't make me just stop believing in God, but it made me go, how much of this is just being used? How much of religion is just being used? It made me completely change the way I looked at it. And that is absolutely true. I was there for the meetings where we could ask more about why the money is not going to the things. So then they changed it. And then the money was going to help do the extra sites. Like, oh, we're going to use money so we can have a smaller church, further out in Noonan. And then that went away too. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like if you're going to get on stage and say, God told us this is what we need to do, then you find a way to do it. And if you really, really can't do it, then you apologize and you give people their money back. But I guess that's on us for believing that that's what God was saying that they needed to do. I'm going to keep going through the problems, the reasons this place was so hurtful. I could talk about this place for 5, 6, 7, 8 episodes, and I could get people on here to interview them, and they would have similar stories. But I don't think you care enough. And if you do care enough, let me know, and I absolutely will do that. The biggest issue, which I feel like I've already said that, one of the biggest issues for me was I was very involved with the youth program. This is the place where I was working, assisting in the youth ministry. I was writing sermons. I was performing sermons. I was leading Sunday school groups, all that kind of cool stuff. And the other members of this youth group were the children of the pastor. And I know they always say, well, the pastor's kids are always going to be the biggest troublemakers. And wow, that is so true. to the point that don't let it be. Like, since it is such a cliche and it's what everybody says that, oh, the pastor's kids are the troublemakers and they're the ones that cause problems, be aware of it and do something about it. Because, oh, goodness, especially my childhood and my youthhood, if you weren't liked by that pastor's kids, they would ruin the experience of church for you. And again, the staff, at least when I was there, and I was there for 5 years, nothing about it. I remember sitting around rooms with youth ministers and staff members, people that the church was paying, who would openly talk about girls in the youth group that were having sex before they were married with the children of the pastors. And they're just laughing about it and talking about, oh, I can't believe that this girl did that. And, oh, did she really do that? Oh, I can't believe it. And, oh, man. And I'm sure I probably took part in the conversation. I don't remember that part. I can picture the room we were all sitting in when it happened. And the fact that I was there, I'm sure I took part in it. But it's gross. It's gross to have your youth minister openly talk about it and not say, no, we don't need to talk about that. That's not important. You don't need to. No, that's not what happened, though. It was this culture of no perfect people allowed, and not gossiping is for perfect people. So we're going to do it, and we'll be aware that we're not being perfect because that's not cool of us. But honestly, nobody at church is perfect. So come on, let's all talk bad about these teenagers. And they would do it with these pastors' kids. And I don't know, they probably did it with other people too. But I don't want to say all the pastors' kids, because one of them, absolutely one of the most delightful men, he's a man now, I've ever met. He's one of my favorite people. He was fantastic. He kept me from losing my mind when it came to the staff members. But the others, especially the older one, when we were younger and teenagers, it was, I don't think I've met real bullies and real just bad people before. And back then, I'm sure that they've all grown up and we've grown out of all this. It was just a bad person. And I don't know how you become just evil. The things that they would want to do and say about people, and the things they would brag about, and the sexual exploits they would get involved in, and the partying they would get involved in. It was grotesque stuff. It wasn't just normal curiosity. I remember a family member of mine who kept getting pressured to get baptized while we were there over and over. Get baptized, you need to get baptized, you need to stop mocking God. I wasn't allowed to put him in any plays that I wrote because he wasn't Christian enough, things like that. And I don't know if he was just using this as an excuse, but it was outright, well, why should I get baptized and get saved if then I can just act like the worst, like all these other teenagers are doing? This doesn't make any sense. This is stupid. And he was right. It was get baptized, get saved, turn your life over to God, and change your behavior. But every teenager that was in this church, or not every, but the main ones, the popular ones, they were baptized, they were saved, and they were just these toxic monsters that the stories I could tell are so terrible. And I don't want to do that because I don't want people to know who they are and hold it against them. Like, for the most part, while I was there, I was friendly with them. But my last year at this church, before I said, yeah, I don't think religion is for me anymore, one of the sons of the pastor decided he didn't like me anymore. I don't remember what we got in a fight. It was over some girl. It was always over a girl. And he decided he didn't like me anymore, so he ruined my last year there. He worked hard to make sure I felt unwelcomed, that I would sit alone, that people would talk bad about me. People talk about me being gay because I wanted to go to Pride, all this stuff. Like, he worked to, it was just like systematic bullying. And of course, why not? No perfect people allowed, right? I witnessed staff members flicking off children. I witnessed them bullying the volunteers. Like, the culture was just, And again, I would be shocked if it's not better now. I think when I was there, it was when those boys who were the pastor's kids, I think they were growing into themselves, and they were all learning to be paid staff because, of course, the children of the pastor is going to become paid staff. And I was there when they were teenagers, and that's when things are hard. So I am sure that it is a better place and that they are better people. But I can only speak to what I experienced, and what I experienced was what I assume high school is like when it's like a movie and there's the bad kids, and the bad kids are really bad, and the teachers all don't want to be there, and they are all mean. It was just a terrible, terrible environment for actually growing as a Christian. So it stopped me. It put me at an end of it. It's made me go, you know what? Religion isn't for me, which I guess what I should have said is this church isn't for me, and tried a different one. But man, it killed your spirit, because no matter what you did, it killed your spirit. And they let me go from my position of youth minister, of assistant youth minister. They released me from that because I was losing my temper at how awful everything was, and I was making it clear. I started calling staff members names. We had one who was the music minister. His name was Mike Parker. I don't know what happened to him. But like I was saying, he would bully us. He would bully the volunteers. He would purposely try to make it harder for us to teach Sunday school class because it would make his little son laugh. And one time I said, wow, he's such a dick. And I said it in front of a bunch of teenagers, which, hey, look, here's me being a hypocrite. But absolutely, I am a hypocrite because no perfect people allowed, baby. So I called him a dick, and I got in a big trouble for that. So I got called into the office, and when I called into the office, they said something that has stuck with me. They said, we have a rule for staff members. We don't talk bad about each other. And I remember going, but we talk bad about everyone else? And he said, well, the rule is that we just don't talk bad about other staff members. And you called Mike Parker a dick, and that's against the rules. And I just remember that. Like, why isn't the rule we don't talk bad about people in the church? Like, we don't bad talk them. Talking bad is a negative thing. It's not like talking bad is ever a positive. But what do you know? No perfect people allowed. So I stopped doing that. I stopped caring. I wanted out. So I slowly phased my way out. I left on good terms. I've gone back a few times. And when I've gone back, it seems like it's doing a lot better. I know so many people there, and they're all lovely. Now they're all lovely. I've spent a lot of time being negative. Sorry, I think this has become therapy for me, this talking about this church. I'm going to drink some water. Here we go. Which you already know that wasn't water. That was that sweet Dr. Pepper, baby. Wicka, wicka, woo. I do improv with one of the people that I had a problem with back when I was there. He's lovely. He's hilarious. He's super kind now. He's more aware of people's needs and helping cover for them and build them up than probably anybody else in the troupe. He's just really great at that. So I know for a fact that this place has become a better place, and maybe it's because I left, but I think it's just because they restructured some things. They stopped trying to go too big. They started focusing on what they do well rather than what they should do differently, and I think that always makes a big difference. And I know a few people who go there and are members and volunteer and stuff, and they seem very happy. So I love it. I was happy there. I loved it there. Besides all the stuff I'm talking about already, the place, the things that were good about it. And if somebody said, hey, can you recommend a church? I would still recommend Community Christian Church. I think it is, the sermons were the best sermons I've ever seen, heard. The music, best music I've ever seen or heard. The production value, which sounds weird to talk about in church, but it really does make a difference. It's easier to follow along when the production value is strong. Best I've ever been a part of. The friends I made, best friends I ever made. Some of the things that I realized about myself, I couldn't have done it without that place. But you have to be careful about getting involved as a volunteer with paid staff. I learned that at community theaters. I've learned that at churches. I've learned that as just like a volunteer at other things. If the staff doesn't look at the people who are volunteering as prizes, which sounds creepy, like, wow, these volunteers are making this so much easier for us. Instead of just giving them a thanks volunteers dinner once a year, let's treat them with so much respect and thanks, because if they weren't doing it, we would not be getting paid. That has got to be the attitude, and I have not been to a place yet where that's the attitude. I've been to places where it's all volunteers and the attitude is great. I've been places where it's all paid and the attitude is great. I've yet to be at a place where paid staff treats the volunteers equally or with the kindness and love and respect that you would want. And again, I'm not the only one who said this. So many people have said it. And what we always hear from places like community is, oh, they're bitter. They don't like how they left. Oh, that person's bitter. They don't like that they're not here anymore. Sometimes if someone's bitter, it's because you fucked up and you were a dick. So sure, you can say that person's saying those things because they're bitter, but you probably made them bitter because you were being trash. So stop being trash to your volunteers is what I'm saying. Is my message today. If you're involved in something and there's a volunteer in any way, someone who's doing it for free because they want to help, treat them with all the respect you can muster. And I've been guilty of not doing that. I've absolutely been paid, put in a paid position, and I had volunteers. And I felt like that they were more pieces in the game rather than players. And I've done it, and it's easy to do it. You just got to be aware. You got to learn. You got to see the people that you're hurting. You got to open your ears and eyes and go, hey, I am hurting people by the way that I am treating them. These people are working just to make my life easier and make our shared vision come to life. Why don't I just be better to them? So, and I've learned that. I learned that. And I failed miserably in the past at doing it. I just wish more places would stop failing miserably, including me. So I wish we all would stop sucking so bad at being people to each other. But I did it. Yeah, I did it bad, and that's a whole nother story. I'll talk about Noonan Theater Company one of these days, and I'll give you guys the full rundown of what I did. I'm making it sound like I did something really terrible. I just was a toxic little asshole for a bit. Anyways, but this place, if you're looking for, I would say be cautious if you're going there to become a member, to volunteer, to go to the Sunday school group, to really get involved. If you're doing it, have a mind of how will you feel if you lose all this? Like, be prepared for that and things be taken away, and be prepared to lose. Like, just be smart if you're going to go do that anywhere, if you're going to go volunteer. But if you're looking for a church, you're looking for a place that delivers religion on stage in a way that is excellent and delivers messages on a way that is just delightful, then I absolutely say Community Christian Church. I think they are always like head and shoulders above every other church I've been to when it comes to church, the church part of church, when you go and you sit down and you're listening and then you get up and you leave. All that, I think that they are the absolute best. It is the inner workings that I have a problem with and what I worry about. And again, I haven't been there in 11 years, so it's got to be better. But just if you're going to get involved in the inner workings of anywhere, be extra smart. Be extra aware, and don't let yourself get hurt by people who believe they're more important than you are. Because they're not more important than you are. They may have more money in their pockets than you. That doesn't make them more important. That just makes them Scrooge McDuck, my babies. Next time we'll finish up this series with our number one church, ranked number one. And this one is on the flip side. The church part of it, the sermons and stuff, garbage. But the personal experiences and the life growth and the fond memories, 100% hundo, the most lovely place in the entire world, absolutely magical. And that is First Baptist Church, Sonoya. Until next time, always remember, wash your hands and lick boots.